welcome to Data Center Nation. My name is Ambrose McNevin. Today I'm joined by John Rippingale. John is the Managing Director at Sudlows, and Sudlows is the leading and award-winning design engineering consultancy for data centers and critical infrastructure that's been operating in the Middle East region for over the last 10 years. John, welcome to Data Center Nation.
Hi Ambrose, and thanks for the warm intro.
John, today we want to talk about the region, we want to talk about Sudlows, we want to talk about a few topics, but let's kick off with, in design terms, what are the biggest challenges to data center development in the Middle East region?
Okay, well, firstly, I think everyone can think of is the heat, but I'll address that separately, as there are a number of other ones that people might not be aware of. There's certain rules and regulations around the utilities, so things that may be commonplace in the US or in Europe might be more tricky to overcome with some of the local authorities here. So that's one key design decision which needs to be taken into consideration when designing your facility. There's also the different types of land, which is more from the civil aspect in terms of the structure for the soil, and you have to pay attention to different floodplains because the land is generally quite flat. Again, that comes out during the due diligence piece when carrying out the design. Focusing on more of the MEP aspects, let's talk about the heat issue. We are in the desert conditions, warm climates, where the 20-year high does reach up to close to 50 degrees. And what we've been seeing in the last few years, we're actually over-specifying the design ambient temperature to account for those sort of peak summer temperatures, which, as we all know, there is a global warming happening. One good thing we are seeing from hyperscale tenants is an opening up of the SLA temperatures in the white space. So for one particular end client, will allow up to 32 degrees in the white space at a cold aisle temperature for around 40% of the year. So if you build that into your design and you know that you're catering for that particular tenant, you can actually do some quite clever things with the cooling system so that you can elevate your cold aisle temperatures just during those peak summer months, slightly above the ASHRAE recommended, which is 27 degrees. Mm-hmm. And then you reduce your overall electrical loading, smaller generators, less chillers, it's less capex and opex for the developer and operator.
John, the climate is obviously a factor. So from concept to commissioning, what are the regional specific considerations that make the process different from designing for more temperate climates?
Well, one thing that we noticed from when we set the office up here 10 years ago is that during the testing, the commissioning, the requirement for seasonal testing from the clients is there. They know how hot it does get in summer and that you're really pushing the external conditions to the maximum for the generators, chillers or dry coolers and condensers. So in all of the RFPs and specs for commissioning, there's always a requirement for that seasonal summer testing to validate the equipment's performance. Obviously, we always do factory witness testing, acceptance testing. So we would test the chillers in certain conditions, but actually on site you've got additional factors of the adjacent equipment, wind blowing in a certain direction. So the clients want to see that you're testing for that, especially now as the facilities are getting larger. Previously we were doing around 5 megawatt facilities, you'd have 5 or 6 chillers. Now we're doing large 30 megawatt facilities, so you've got around 30 chillers located on the roof. You start to get microclimates and heat build up. So it's especially important that during the testing phase that we go through rigorous testing on different ambient conditions. For some reason, I can't think of one project that we've ended up commissioning that's not in summer. It always seems to fall that we're commissioning in summer, which when I was on site was always a bit of a nightmare when it's 50 degrees outside and you're stood on the roof with all the chillers going. A few outfit changes a day were needed for that. But we follow in line with best practice with ASHRAE levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're working with very competent clients. We've got quite a robust set of commissioning requirements that we're always inputting to best practice, lessons learned from, say, other different clients we're working with other regions. So it's an evolving process.
So as a design consultancy, what do you guys do to help developers create, the long-term sustainable digital infrastructure, really, which is the base layer of the stack for these kind of digital economy efforts?
We worked on a number of projects where there's high density applications, so 20 kilowatts a rack, which is an enabler for that. We look at ways for our clients to go to market a lot quicker, to reduce that time to market, which is key at the moment in securing some of those contracts, but also to enable the technology as it comes in, because you want to be there at the forefront of it and be able to support it as and when it starts up. Things like driverless cars, for example, and Internet of Things are still not prevalent here, but there's more and more projects happening with smart cities, smart governments, which all feed into the data centers and requirement for that.
We're talking about the best thing about the data center industry in the UAE, and some of your sharing some of your kind of personal experiences. You've seen some significant changes in the last 10 years, I imagine.
Yeah, so that's been one of the interesting parts of the journey. When we opened the office here originally, it was mainly enterprise facilities, half a megawatt, 1 megawatt, slightly smaller than I'd been used to working on. And the sort of colo wholesale market, it really just started with like the Casna, Equinix and Gulf Data Hub opening, but predominantly it was the market was run by the telcos, which is traditionally how things work in the data center industry. And the last 3 years have really been phenomenal in terms of what we've been doing in terms of data center capacity and size. We're now working on 30 megawatt facilities, so that's rivaling sort of projects that happen across Europe and the rest of the world. That's in one go. We're deploying that as well, not just in a phased approach. We're seeing high densities. We're seeing data center campuses. One of our clients, we're on building 5 now. So it started off with a 4.5, then it was a 6, then a 12, and now there's 2 16 megawatt facilities, and they're already leased out for hyperscalers. So we're looking at the next plot for the next campus for them. So that's really interesting to be here and part of that growth, be able to support our clients through that journey.
John Rippingale, the Managing Director at Sudlows, MEA and APAC. It's been a fascinating conversation. Thanks for speaking with Data Center Nation today.
Yep, pleasure's mine. Look forward to the event next year as well.
Wonderful.